Mm. It's not keeping time.
Good morning. You can't make it?
Morning.
Yes.
We don't have to start this day over again, do we?
Good morning-ish. They're all good morning until I say good night.
I see.
It just keeps my perspective better.
Okay.
Or it might just be something overly telling. Did Kent make it on?
Yep, he's on.
Okay. Is trying to figure out if he is going to be able to.
Yep.
Change this. Ah, there it goes. See, an iPad looks just as good as anything. Now let
There
me
you go.
mute myself and probably take it off so you can't see me multitasking while I'm driving.
Hi, Rich.
Hi. Whew.
A warm one down there, huh?
Well, it's warm when you're outfitting about 40 kids in new football gear, trying to put helmets, chin straps. Rich, I lost my pants. So yeah, they're all out at practice now. So I don't know if some people probably don't look at this as relaxing, but I actually do. Oh boy.
Confusing, relaxing with rewarding.
The silence is deafening. Should we say Pledge of Allegiance?
In a rush?
It's 6.
It is. Just. I was waiting for, make sure Jerry's fully connected.
Oh,
Figuratively, literally?
it's just a black hole.
I'm here.
Okay.
For some reason, my camera isn't working, but I'll get that fixed.
Okay. All
You
right.
make faces at us.
So, all right. It is
There he
6.
is.
Yeah, it is 6 p.m. and I'd like to call the meeting of the Board of Selectmen for the town of Georgetown to order. It is Tuesday, September 14th, 2021. Would everybody please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I've got the flag right there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Oh, right. Roll call. I am Police Judge Lynette Kelsey. Rob Connell.
Here.
Deanne Powell.
Here.
John Jennings.
Here.
Paul Hingen is not here yet. Mary Smith
Here.
and Rich Barrows. All right. Agenda approval. I have one more item that I'd like to add under staff items, town administrator agreement. Anyone else have anything to add? What happened here? Why is that? Where did that? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the latest additions.
Second.
There's Paul Hingen.
Hi there.
Hi there. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda with the added staff item. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Audience business. Members of the audience have 5 minutes to present any matter of interest not already on the agenda. Do we have anyone here for audience business?
I do not believe we do. I
Okay.
typed in the chat box to let us know and haven't received any response.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Next, we have the payables. The payables that we have before us this evening are from August 20th, 2021 through September 9th, 2021. Any questions or comments on the payables? Yes, John.
Just one question about the police department. Was it one of the old cars that was getting a transmission, or one of the new trucks, or what?
It was the old chief car, the white
Okay.
is it a Trailblazer maybe? I can't think right now, but that
That
sedan,
sounds
like,
right.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Would anyone like to make a motion
I'll
to
make a
approve?
motion to approve the payables dated 8/20 to 2021 to 9/9/2021.
Second.
Faster, Mary. Sorry.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the payables from 8/20 to 9/9/2021 as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the minutes of the August 24th, 2021 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Any comments, corrections, additions?
Somebody want to make a motion to approve it as presented?
I'll be the person if you'd like, Jerry.
Sure, Rob.
I'll make that motion.
Geez, second.
It's been
John.
moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the August 24th, 2021 regular minute meeting as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. New and unfinished business. We have ordinance number 5, series 2021, mobile food vendors. This is the second reading and a public hearing.
I can do a quick staff report, and Kent may have things to add just to kind of remind us. The
Okay.
board worked through this on first reading at length, as you recall. We made a lot of
I can't
edits, etc.
understand.
I'm sorry, you can't hear me?
It's breaking up like crazy.
Me? Because
I
can
can hear
everyone
you.
else hear me?
No, I can
Yes.
hear you fine.
I
I
can hear
can
you
hear
fine.
you.
I guess it's just you. I'll lean in a little bit. I'll do my best. So my mother said, do your best. So that's what I'll do. The board had a long discussion, as you know, in detail on this ordinance. You made language changes that I noted down. I probably got 95, or hopefully 95% of the accurate. So I won't, you're as familiar with this ordinance as I, given the work that you put into it 2 weeks ago. I would point out that there is still a blank on the, out to the third page of the ordinance to detail whether mobile food vendor licensees who are nonprofit organizations based in Clear Creek County should be exempt from any of the requirements. And we didn't get, I don't think, the direction on that, but after reviewing it, looking at what the requirements are, hours of operation, clean and organized location, these are all things that I assume you'd want nonprofits to comply with as well. So you might want to have a discussion about that. I think that we did provide, did we not, in the application fee? Maybe we didn't. That would be one place that you could give them a break if you wished. But the other requirements appear to be things that you want across the board, but I'd note that for you. Lastly, on the last page, there's in the section that has to do with the temporary use permits, because we had originally structured this, as you might recall, as a temporary use permit. And then the question became, how is the appeal lodged, et cetera? And so we had this complicated language about temporary use permits for mobile food vendors. You decided, no, let's go a different direction. Let's have a license. So it doesn't trigger the temporary use permit section at all. And right now it just shows it as language I put in as being deleted. But if this passes on second reading, that whole section goes away. Because this is a license now, it's a licensing regime, not a temporary use permit. So it's not subject to that section. It has its own appeal processes that are embedded, as you know, in the ordinance that you work through. And we can certainly look at, but now the ordinance is self-contained in the sense of having the appeal process being completely within the ordinance itself. So that's my thumbnail sketch. And when you get down to action items, or the action here, we'll take a motion to approve with, I assume, to approve with such amendments as you're just about to discuss. And I will make sure that I pick up those two things that I just noted when you finally do act. But that is enough for a staff report. I know you probably have specific questions, concerns on the ordinance itself, and I'm happy to respond to those.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing at this time. It is 6:10 p.m. And do we have anyone from the public who wants to make a comment or ask a question?
We do have 3 attendees, and if any of them would like to be able to speak, please type into the chat box and I will promote you to be able to speak.
Okay.
Looks like nobody so far.
Okay. In which case, I will close the public hearing and we'll open up the discussion to the board. Get that. We're closing the public hearing at 6:12 p.m. Deanne, I saw your hand up.
In section 3 that Jerry was just talking about with the strike through, the first line of it says notice of the decision will be mailed. I think we should also send it electronically at the same time, with the mail being the official way. But because we've been having trouble with the post office all of last year, and later on it says something about doing any appeal has to be filed within 10 days. And it just seems like that would give the vendors the optimal amount of time if they had it electronically too before the official hard copy gets to them.
2 points on that. As I mentioned before, that whole section goes away.
The whole section does.
Yeah,
Okay, because my other thing was that the line right above the strike through said that appeals go to the planning commission,
Yeah.
and we had decided that they went to the business guys instead.
well, let's remember that in your discussion 2 weeks ago, you decided that this would be a license, not a temporary use permit.
Right.
Right.
Because you decided that, this whole section 17.26040 is inapplicable. It will come out of the ordinance entirely. Now, that doesn't mean, and you're right to think about, well, what's the appeal process? That appeal process now appears for this particular license on the second page of the ordinance at subsection D4. So if you look on subsection D4, actually D3 and 4 is the appeal process for this kind of animal.
Right.
And that's where, if you have changes, concerns about the appeal process and how long and who goes to, that's where you should focus. Kent?
Just confirming that for the other temporary uses, that appeal process stays.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we're not repealing that ordinance section. We're just
Okay.
not amending it in this
In this
ordinance,
manner.
because now we don't have to. We've got our own
Okay.
self-contained appeal process, and we don't have to mess with that section.
Okay, I'm just clarifying in my own
Yeah.
mind.
I want to throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Right. Okay. Yes, Deanne, you had more comment?
Yeah, another one, on the page before, let's see, what is it? Low down, it's section C, permitted locations. Because our focus is the historical district, I think number 5 should be up higher. It's basically move a paragraph and renumber things. Because there really should be more emphasis on the historic part of the town, because an awful lot of times these things are going to end up downtown.
I guess I didn't really follow how you wanted
Section
this
C
to
on
change.
at the bottom of the, what is that, second page, and then it carries over to the top of the third page.
Right.
And item number 5 says that being in the historic district, there's sort of other, not regulations, but things on it. And it just seems like that should be early on and then go into the other ones that include down by the lake and over on Argentina and wherever else. I also had a question
Well,
about.
Hang on,
let's take up
Deanne.
one at a time, maybe.
I wonder if Deanne has the first version and that I accidentally included in the packet and then sent out the second version after that. Because I think she's referring to number 9 on the 3rd page.
I see.
Yeah,
No.
that's what it is.
Okay, sorry about that. I read the one online and I didn't realize the numbering was different. But again, I think that there should be more emphasis put on the historic district, that it should come first and then the other, or way up high, and the other ones, you know.
I don't,
That's
I
our bread
guess,
and butter.
okay. I guess I don't really feel that, listing it first makes it more priority or more important. They're all important. So I would probably leave the text in the order that it's in here. They're all equally important. How does the rest of the board feel? Okay, lots of thumbs up. Okay. You said you had another thing?
Yeah, I think there should be, in the licensing conditions, I think there should be a mention of the very real possibility that a bear could show up and try to get into their equipment, because that's different than downtown, it's different than in other places, and it's, what would you call it? We've just been fighting with one here in my backyard is what the problem is. And I think somebody, these guys shouldn't come toddling up here with their truck or cart that has a single layer of sheet metal on the outside and lots of nice smells inside. They should know that large creatures can tear the side off if, it might. And I thought under licensing conditions, because it would be real easy to just drop a sentence in that says something about, keeping in mind all things need to be bear proof or something like that.
Maybe put it under 5, daily trash removal, and making sure that trash is bear proof. I'm not sure about the wording, but that might just be another little 3 words that you could put in there.
Or not just bear, I mean, all wildlife.
Yeah, wildlife proof.
There's already a wildlife ordinance, wildlife trash mitigation ordinance on the books. So if we just
resistant containers.
Exactly.
There you go.
You could say in 5A, daily trash removal, semicolon, trash and facilities to be wildlife resistant.
See, that would do.
Okay.
Although I'd still like putting the word bear in just because that's bigger than wildlife. I mean, wildlife is a mouse.
Well, a camel is a racehorse designed by a committee.
Yep.
Anybody get the joke?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll write down whatever you tell me to.
I like it phrased with wildlife because that includes all forms. So.
Yeah, I like wildlife.
While we're on the issue of permitted locations, I'm glad it was raised because number 6, this exemption for nonprofits is really, when you think about it, out of place. That's not a location condition. That's just a exemption.
That's correct.
If the board doesn't want to give any exemptions to nonprofits, we can just delete that and solve both problems at the same time. I don't care.
Perfect.
Or you could just put under licensing condition, nonprofits are exempt from the what, the fees.
If that's what you wish, what's the board feel about that?
I'm okay with exempting them from the fees. So you're going to drop that.
Licensing fee of $100 and a fee for a $25 a day fee. That's what they'd be exempt from. If they were there for a week, they'd be exempt from what, 275 bucks if I'm doing my math right. What I can say is I can include the exemption over in the fee section itself.
Okay.
Just to say annual license administration fee, $100, nonprofits exempt, same thing for the daily fee.
I think some of the concern with the nonprofits still stems back to, in the example that was discussed, which is a special event, I guess, was Christmas market. We didn't want this to impact the school from selling brats in a booth, or the community center to be selling their burgers at a table set up next to the community center. You know, we were trying to grant some leeway in that respect. Or even the chili cook-off that's coming up in a couple of weeks is a fundraiser for nonprofits. And it might be splitting hairs, but this mobile food vendor ordinance, when Business Promotions was discussing it and looking to bring in such vehicles, and I'll say vehicles in this sense, to the town, was not trying to eliminate those other opportunities. So however the wording needs to be done, or however this board wants to approve it in its final fashion, that's the result that we were trying not to have too heavy of an impact on.
Mm-hmm.
So
One of the things we should look at too is Clear Creek nonprofits, because you could potentially have someone coming from out of county or whatever, and seeing that they can make a quick buck. And many times, like the Boys and Girls Clubs named, have they send trucks out and they're sending kids out to sell candy bars in the name of Boys and Girls Clubs, and we know nothing about it. So I would limit it to our home cooking and Clear Creek County nonprofits.
okay, to kind of organize the discussion here, to begin with, we've got a definition of nonprofits that does work, Rich, in terms of based within Clear Creek County, at least at the moment, is how it's read. So I'd use that definition wherever I plug it in. With respect to Mary's question, Mary, does subsection E4 at the top of the third page address your need, or do you want nonprofits to be, and I don't care, but do you want nonprofits to be exempt from any of the other locational requirements in E1, 2, 3, 5, and 7? If E4 kind of addresses your issue, then we might be all right. You tell me.
Well, unfortunately, I don't seem to have an E4, and I thought I had the new version in front of me. Are you talking under permitted locations?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so I have E6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
Okay.
But however, if we go back to the under section 1B, the mobile food vendor, I can pretty much guarantee that none of those nonprofits that I was mentioning as examples are fully capable of being relocated within half an hour. So maybe that takes them out of that mix, because the way they set up at the community center or the brat booth or whatever, they're not gonna be able to relocate within a half an hour of being required to do so unless they walk
I'm
away
just
from
trying
it.
to
So-
figure out a way to address the issue. You know me, I'm kind of action oriented. And so it's sort of, what do we say here? And so am I right in thinking that the sort of definition of what a mobile food vendor is, combined with, to the extent they're considered a mobile food vendor, combined with the statement in E4, which I'm happy to read if you don't have it in front of you.
Yeah,
It says-
please, just so I'm on the
and it-
same numbered section.
Sure. It says a mobile food vendor shall, I'm sorry, it's E4. A mobile food vendor shall not be allowed to occupy any identified public street parking spaces unless the street has been closed for a special event. And in that circumstance, mobile food vendors must be moved upon request of the town. Probably not. You're saying that if they're in booths, et cetera, that's not in a parking space.
Right.
So they have to, these people were wanting to sort of relieve from the other requirements, have to sort of be categorized as not mobile food vendors to still sell their brats and do those things. Well, to begin with, they're not mobile. Right? So maybe that's good enough.
Well, and here's another part of it. They certainly aren't commercial vendors, which goes back to the definition. So I guess we've beaten around it, but this ordinance does address it through the definition because those nonprofits setting up the tables for whatever are not commercial vendors. So I've answered my own question. Sorry about that, guys, for dragging me through that.
It's okay.
Hey, excuse me, this is Jen. Jerry, I think you're looking at the first version.
Yep. So that E4 from the first version became E7 in the latest version.
So I myself have the wrong version. That's even worse.
Uh-oh.
And I'm sorry, it was my fault. It's my fault. I put the wrong version in the agenda packet, so blame me.
Okay, yeah, because
I apologize.
So
We should also be renumbering those to make sure that they actually coincide down the line. Since we're on permitted locations, can I bring up another thing?
sure, please.
I'm wondering if all of those permitted locations just needs a little bit more tweaking or housekeeping to detail, and we specifically say something that says as specifically designated and approved, because I can see a very broad interpretation of any one of these sections, I guess, whatever numbers you want to say, just under the E, permitted locations. I wouldn't want a mobile food vendor to think that if the spot that they're sitting at selling, vending isn't working, that they could lift up their, whatever, and pull off and do another block away. And I'll just use the example of the lake or a parking space in the historic district. If we're telling them they can be there, they're going to be right there. And they can't, just because they have an approval from us, a license, that they say, oh, 2 blocks away would be better, and then off they go. So I think we need, and then that might cover it for each section under permitted location, if we just add something along those lines. So it would say mobile food vendors once licensed by the town are permitted to operate in the following areas within the town as specifically designated and approved, or some kind of a, so we hone them into a specific spot.
Sure. I can do that in 2 places. I can do it there, and I can also add a license condition,
Okay.
But I see your point.
Yeah,
Right.
I do too. Yes, Deanne?
Again, I don't want to see food vendors on 6th Street. I'd like to see, or food trucks. It's one thing if it's a little cart or something, relatively fits in with old fashioned, but the big trucks like Lucha's had down there, I don't want to see them on 6th. They need to be specified that they can't be on 6th. They can be in the parking lot across from the brewery or behind Sophie Galley's or whatever. That leaves them with lots of access to the crowds. It also helps some of the businesses on those side streets to get a little more attention. But I just don't want a big ugly truck sitting on the 6th Street in the middle of Christmas market. I just don't want that.
But again, we
No.
discussed special events, and that would be when we've closed that area down, or the Slacker, or some of the other runs and events that occur. We have those larger mobile food vendors there. So
See, down by the lake, yeah. On one of the side streets, yeah, but not on 6th Street because that's our historic district's main focus. And it needs to look old fashioned as best we can. And if we let each little inch and inch be given up in no time at all, we got no reason for anybody to come here. We need to guard our historic status and keep it
So,
pristine as we can.
except that historically, we've been, for the last over 20 years, we've allowed a food vendor, mobile food vendor, during the Slacker on 6th Street. It's there for the day. It's not a permanent fixture. I don't see it as detracting from our historic district. I see it as an asset as part of a special event. And I think those are going to be, I think the section 7 under E, where it's not allowed to occupy any identified public street parking spaces unless the street has been closed for a special event. And I think that covers our bases so that it's not going to be in parking places on 6th Street. So
You're saying
that's my feeling.
because when we have the most people come in and see it, the most new guys come in and see it, we're going to junk up our historic district so that it shows that we don't care. And then pretty soon things will be legislated so that since we don't care, we might as well do this. And the whole thing is lost in no time. It needs to not be on 6th.
Okay.
It can be downtown in the parking lot beside the brewery or across from the brewery or, but just it's Hotel de Paris's, it just, we need to keep, we're losing our historic authenticity and we need to guard it because that's the only reason people come here and spend money.
So, okay.
Well,
Differences
I'll
of
need direction,
opinion.
so I'll need a
Sure.
board motion on this
Right.
at some point.
this was discussed at business promotions also, and one of the members there made a good point. And this may not necessarily relate just to special events. We don't close our street down to vehicles. Vehicles are not historic. If you drive a 2021 BMW or a 2019 Ford whatever, Ranger, because they weren't making Broncos then, those aren't historic. People tend to, it's like they don't see the power lines either because those weren't there at the time. You become oblivious to it. So we are not, we have not created that type of street where it's just cobblestone or dirt and there are no vehicles on our streets at any given time. We have vehicles all the time driving through our streets. So that in itself takes away from the historic aspect. I respect what you're saying, Deanne, but again, as Lynette pointed out, we have special events where we've had these vehicles, these mobile food vendors in the past.
So, any other board members care to make a comment?
Paul, John, Rich?
I'm good with how the order. This is John. I'm good with how the ordinance is written. I think that, Mary's comments are germane to this. We aren't creating a Williamsburg here, where we have people in costumes and we've dirted the streets or whatever. It's just, it's just Georgetown. We're having special events. It's special. It's different. If people want to come and take pictures, they can pick other days. And so I just like to move along here. This point's been talked about many times, and I appreciate your comments, Deanne, but it's a different direction I think we're going. That's my comment.
So
People will come, Deanne. Well, they'll come from miles around.
That way, that's the
Far
paper I
away.
gave you guys a year ago. What I wanted to
So-
say is that we had electricity before anybody. At first, I'm not trying to make this Williamsburg. I'm trying to keep it pristine. Second, Mary just said cars and electricity. We had electricity before any place
Okay.
except for Denver had it. We also had phones before any place except Denver had them. So consequently, electric wires are just fine because they're from the 1880s. It's only the cars that are germane, but I appreciate what you said too, Mary. It's just that we've got to be more careful with this. It's going to go away.
No.
Brick's already ruined theirs. Idaho Springs has ruined theirs. They have a sign up on I-70 that says historic district, and there isn't one, So we need to be careful.
I personally think we are being careful already, and sufficiently careful. Yes, Mary?
I have two more other points that I'd just like to bring up again, kind of housekeeping details. On the second page under the review procedures and appeals.
Okay.
We had discussed this at the last meeting that we were going to say until instead of saying town clerk, we were going to say town staff or designated staff. Jerry had just a term for that he was going to throw in. So it doesn't rely on one specific party per the ordinance. Under section number 1, I didn't say that very clearly. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I'll just say until I'm fine.
Town staff. Yeah, there was just two places in that paragraph. And then back under the permitted locations, the last item, which is number 11, I believe.
And what's
Where
it
it says
read?
when
Because
not-
which
Yeah,
one is it?
I'll-
Because now I've got the bad version. I can't really follow, but go ahead.
Bad version.
It's number-
It starts with when not in service to the public for more than one day.
Okay,
We
I
had
got
also discussed just saying, as opposed to specifically saying the 1700 block of Argentine or the event parking lot or private property, we were just going to say is designated by the town or some type of clause, so that if in the event that event parking was being used for something else, whoever that town staff member is going to tell the mobile food vendor, where they should relocate to. So it's not specified in the ordinance. So it gives us some leeway as the town to say, this is where you're going to move your vehicle.
So we want to keep the 1700 block of Argentine and private property with permission, and then add or other location designated by town staff? Or
They could be or because the 1700 block of Argentine may change down the line. And so then all of a sudden the ordinance needs to be cleaned up. So if we just say,
I just need to know what to say. So it should be, you must relocate to a place that the town staff says?
that.
Objections to that?
No.
Okay.
And then under time limitations,
Okay.
which is the next subparagraph, it says a mobile food vendor shall be allowed to operate up to 10 days or 4 weekends. I think we should say up to 10 approved days so that we actually know which days those are. I mean, not having the application in front of us is a little bit, makes this more difficult, but I wouldn't want a food vendor to think that they're going to come on their selected 10 days as opposed to us knowing exactly which 10 days they are. That makes sense? And the same with the weekends. we want to be able to tell them exactly what day is approved for them to come. And if we say they're just coming up to 10 days, do they get to pick the 10 days or are we telling them which 10 days? That's my point.
So with a comment that you made before, are these, so the specified days that they're approved to be there, whether it's 10 consecutive days or 4 weekends, and the specific location as determined in the license? Is that?
That's
That's what
fine,
I'm
as long
hearing.
as those days, yeah, and they're not consecutive. Remember, we struck that out because we
Okay.
wanted to give that
Necessary.
broader sense,
Right.
but we also don't want them saying, well, I still have 5 more days, so I'm gonna come this day, and we're like, no, no, no. You know,
Well,
so just so
to
that
cut to
that's
the-
tight.
What I can add at the end of that sentence is it says, within a 1-year period, as those dates are specified in the issued license.
Perfect,
work?
thank you.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm done, I
Jerry,
promise, John.
What else?
Nothing from me.
Okay. Any comments from you, Paul?
No, I think John said it very well. And Mary's points that she brought up that we just addressed. And so I'm good with the way it's going to read here shortly.
Great, thank you. Who haven't we heard from? Rob, did we hear all of the comments that you had?
Not all of them, please, not all of them.
Have you ever heard them all?
Probably
It's-
not.
It's, I agree with everybody's, I like Mary's idea. I just can't wait to get them up here. I really would like to see this in motion. We've debated this 6 ways till Sunday. Let's get them up here.
Okay.
Yep.
Rich, any comments from you?
Just want to see us get it done. I think made some good suggestions. Jerry's put a lot of work into this. Business promotions wants to see it happen, so let's get it done.
Okay. All right.
I can suggest a motion that, and I can rattle through what I believe are the amendments. And we can see how that flies.
Let's try.
John might say so moved, who knows?
You can count on it.
Proper motion be to approve ordinance number 5, amending the Georgetown Municipal Code by the addition of a new section governing mobile food vendors with the following amendments. And I don't have the numbering exactly right because I've got the bad version, so I'll just give you the topics. To provide that the annual licensing and administration fee and the fee of the daily $25 fee shall not apply to mobile food vendors who are nonprofit organizations based within Clear Creek County. Secondly, that under the review procedure, the application processing is by the town staff rather than town identified town clerk. Third, that with respect to permitted locations at the beginning of the list of permitted locations, the mobile food vendor, once licensed by the town, permitted to operate the following areas within the town, but only in the location specified in the issued license. Next, under the locations, when not in service to the public for more than 1 day, they must relocate their vehicle to a location designated by town staff rather than the list of identified locations. Under time limitations, the first sentence amended by the addition at the end of as those dates, so that's the dates you can operate, as those dates are specified in the issued license. At the beginning of the subsection on license conditions, the first condition will be a mandatory condition. All the others are well, they're all mandatory conditions. The first mandatory condition will be that the mobile food vendor may operate only in the location indicated on the issued license to give us 2 places to make sure that that takes place. Within the license conditions, the mobile food vendors are responsible for furnishing, the first one, I believe, still is daily trash removal. That will be amended to say daily trash removal, semicolon. Trash and facilities, trash in all facilities shall be to be wildlife resistant. And the last section 3 of the ordinance to be deleted as unnecessary, while that certainly that code section will remain in the code. That section is unnecessary because it refers to temporary use permits, and this is no longer that, it's a license. Those would be the amendments to the ordinance's approval. If somebody wants to move that or motion, then we can get that moved and seconded, then we can take additional motions to amend. If there's,
So moved.
okay.
Second,
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 5, series 2021, an ordinance amending the Georgetown Municipal Code by the addition of a new section governing mobile food vendors on second reading with the changes as noted by our county attorney, our town attorney. Further discussion. Deanne, you had your hand up.
Yeah, several places, well, not several, but where it's talking about properties adjacent to where the things are going to be parked, you have to have written permission or something. I'd like a definition of adjacent because I can see, for example, loud music affecting more than just the guys on each side, that it could go 3 or 4 properties down. What does adjacent mean?
Presently, the ordinance, and again, I may have the numbering wrong, but I've got it at letter E2, but it's under permitted locations in the second paragraph. Is that still true? Those of you that have the good version, does the second paragraph under permitted locations say any mobile food vendor proposed to be located immediately adjacent to an existing permitted business?
no, we struck that out the last time.
Oh, great. I'm at a loss because I don't have that
Oh.
section. Point that out for me. I'm sorry.
So there is nothing, we
It's
struck
not in-
out
Okay.
last meeting, making
Okay.
notification to the adjacent owners.
Okay. All right.
But it was in that email that was sent out.
No, that's the
What?
wrong version.
No,
That you
the
have.
physical copy is the wrong version. The email was supposed to be the updated version.
Okay, we have the updated version on the screen. Let's all work off of that.
Okay.
Okay, can you share the next screen or scroll down? Stop. Okay. Yeah, I agree. That came out.
Yeah.
So if you want to put it back in, that's a motion to amend to put it back in.
I'm so confused at this point. I don't know what's happening. When I was reading the email today, I found, and yesterday and over the weekend, I found the wording that said something about you had to have permission for adjacent owners
Yeah.
or whatever, if there were complaints from adjacent. And I think it needs to be bigger than that. And I agree with Mary that we had a discussion on it. I don't remember the outcome of that discussion. I only remember that we did indeed discuss it last time. But it's someplace in the updated one. It says something about having permission or if there are complaints from adjacent properties.
Let me help you out. Look on the page that is on the screen. On the left-hand side, letter F as in Frank. And you'll see time limitations. And with respect to extensions, the town administrator, the town can extend if there have not been verified complaints in business owners. That's what we have on complaints.
Okay,
Well, hear me out.
not what I had, because the word adjacent was in the copy I had.
And that's because the prior version
Right.
had a sentence that said, if you're located immediately adjacent to a permanent business, you have to obtain their permission. And the board said, take that out last time. So that's kind of the history of what you've done. So what we have now is a motion and second to adopt this version. And if you want it back in, that would be a motion to amend to put it back in, Deanne, and that would be a proper
No, I
motion.
don't want it in. I wanted the word adjacent defined in case it was too limiting to only the immediate area. And I read that in the one that was sent as an amendment to a corrected amendment in an email, which is why I can't tell you where it is, because I'm a Luddite at heart and make marks on the paper as I find problems. And I can't make marks on the email, you know?
Okay, well,
So,
nevertheless, we've got a pending motion that is up for amendment. And, to fix it, somebody's got to propose an amendment. I'm happy to help propose amendments in the right language, and then we can get it voted on.
so if I'm understanding Deanne's concern, she wanted the term adjacent defined. However, that section that you had concerns about that contained the word adjacent isn't in this updated version. So am I correct? You don't even need to define adjacent because it's not here.
Except that I did read it in this document online.
Not in this one.
I'm going to vote against it no matter what, so do whatever you want.
Okay. It was that section was in the version that was in our packet.
Which
However,
I didn't read. I put an X across it and threw it in a pile.
Okay. It is not in the latest version that we have that we're working with right now. So, okay. Is everybody good with that? I can only see a few people with the screen share going on. So, looks like a lot of thumbs up. Okay. So, any further discussion on the motion that's been made and seconded? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you. Motion passes. All right. Next on our agenda, we have recreation in the outdoors management plan, which is it's the long version of RUMP. And this is regarding a support letter for Clear Creek County. They have put in a grant application to Great Outdoors Colorado, GOCO, and Amy Saxton has joined us for this discussion.
Am I here?
Yes, you are.
Excellent. I didn't know if this was a webinar or not. Yes, thank you. I did come to you all last year with a similar request for a grant that we submitted to CPW for this same recreation in the outdoors management plan. And unfortunately, we were not awarded that grant. This is a grant for really the exact same opportunity. And this is a support letter that is in the form of a joint municipal letter that is with Idaho Springs, Empire, and Silver Plume. And you did agree to sign this letter last year. It is basically verbatim the same letter and the same plan last year. And I'm hoping that you're open to supporting it again this year. The grant is structured a little bit differently this year. Last year, we were asking for about a third of the overall recreation plan. This year, we're asking for about 2/3 of it. It's a $100,000 grant request, and Clear Creek County then will have about $25,000 match. And we're hoping to get a little bit further in the process with with 125,000. I think last year's grant proposal was for about 50,000 altogether.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
Any discussion by the board?
I'm in agreement that this is a good thing for us to sign again. Yeah, I'd like us to sign on.
Great, thank you.
Well, John says so. I'm on board.
Thanks, Ron.
Any other comments from the board?
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
It's good.
All right. Okay, there is a suggested motion in your packet. Would anybody like to make it?
I'll make the motion. I move to authorize Police Judge Lynette Kelsey to sign the joint letter of support by the 4 communities in Clear Creek County of the planning and capacity grant application to GOCO as part of a process to create Clear Creek County Recreation in the Outdoors Management Plan ROMP.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize Police Judge Lynette Kelsey to sign the joint letter of support for the to go with the grant application to GOCO. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Good. Motion passes. Thanks for joining us, Amy. Thank you
Thank
for
you so
doing what
much.
you do. You
Thank you
bet.
so much. Have a great evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
All right. Next, we have ordinance number 6, series 2021, series restoring historic addresses on 6th Street. This is a first reading.
I can give you a quick staff report.
Okay.
The board's aware of the request that was made to restore historic numbering. There is a process dictated by statute for that. It requires an ordinance, and I've detailed that in the whereas recitals in this ordinance. So you have to go through that process, but there is a process for it, and I've articulated that, and this ordinance will accomplish it. So the ordinance, the whereas, is mostly just tell the story and articulate the procedural basis that gives you the right to change numbering and the means by which you do that. And the operative sections of the ordinance are 2 really. The first is to list the current number and what the historic and now restored number would be. And the second section directs the town administrator and town clerk to provide a copy of the ordinance to the county clerk and recorder and other appropriate offices so that that can continue to be put into the county records and otherwise recognized as the new official numbers. And it may well be that some office or some company, somebody will ask for evidence of the new numbers, and this ordinance then can serve as that evidence. And so it's a good, you need to have some kind of written record that will stand the test of time. And 50 years from now, when all of us are dead, there will be, an argument about whether the numbers are right. I'm planning on it. And this ordinance will solve that problem. So happy to answer questions. First reading.
Yep.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Jen.
On the last, where it says current number 511 6th Street, and then it says historic and restored number 511 6th Street. I was confused by that. So it'll
Well,
stay the
that's
same.
wrong, isn't it?
No.
No,
there's
one.
actually- Sorry, Lynette, sorry.
Go ahead.
That's actually the last building on the block, yeah. So that's the hardware portion of Nisel and Anderson. And it was 511 6th Street, but it's a separate address from the grocery store portion of Nisel and Anderson.
So we need them both.
Yes.
Yes.
One goes to 509 and the other keeps 511. And what's good about that is that in the future, if someone goes, well, wait a minute, they have the same question. What you've done is you've owned the whole block. Or you've renumbered the whole block, right? So that in future, that will make sense to people. Oh, okay, it's the whole block. Okay. Other questions?
Ken's frozen. He'll be right back. But thank you. That makes
You-
sense
it-
for me. I understand.
Yep, good catch.
7 o'clock.
He'll be right.
Oh,
Right
Lynette
back.
too. Here she is.
7 o'clock.
Right.
Wow.
Halloween.
Okay.
Where'd Lynette go? Oh, there she is.
Like that. Remember that game, Red Light, Green Light? Did anyone play that game?
Oh, yeah.
Or it's musical chairs, because now you guys are in different positions on my screen.
Yeah. Happy to answer questions, but at first reading, proper motion be adopt ordinance number 6 on first reading, and in 2 weeks, you'll get to see it again.
Yep. Okay. And in that case, if there aren't any further comments or questions on this, there is a suggested, a recommended motion in your packet.
I'll make that motion. I move to that the ordinance number 6, series 2021, an ordinance restoring historic numbering for properties located in the 500 block of 6th Street within the town be approved on the first reading and be adopted on be approved on the first reading, be adopted on the first reading.
So moved. Second,
Yeah, sorry.
whatever.
That's my fault.
All bases are covered. So it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 6, series 2021, on first reading. Any further discussion? Yes, Deanne?
It says be approved on first reading and be adopted on first reading. Does that mean tonight it's done?
No, it doesn't.
That was a typo. As I said, it was my mistake. I own it. I own it again. I screwed up the motion. It should
So
just
what
be,
part goes away?
yeah,
What part goes away?
adopted on first reading. Approved is
Right.
fine.
So,
Ready for a vote?
yep, we are. Any further discussion?
Does this mean we're gonna have a second reading?
Of course.
Yeah,
We always
like
do.
all
on
ordinances.
Ordinances always have second. Okay. All right. If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Staff items, town treasurer. In your packets, you had the second quarter 2021 analysis and also the August financial statement and treasurer's report with the sales tax report as well. Any questions for Mary Sims?
Good job, Mary.
Thanks for putting it together.
Thanks.
Yes, good job. Thank you. Okay, next we have a broadband project to public facilities. It's sponsored by Clear Creek County, and I think Beth Luther was in our list of participants. You should have gotten a separate
It was-
email with information from Kent.
Yeah, Beth will share the screen. Would probably
Okay.
be easier than anything else. I sent it.
Great.
That was too late, so.
Okay.
Okay,
it's just
can you
information.
guys hear me?
Ken, thank you. Hi, Beth.
Okay. Awesome, hello. Now, Ken, do you want me to share screen or are you gonna share screen?
Why don't you share screen real quick, because I can't I'm on an iPad tonight, so I can't.
Okay, I don't think I have the ability to share.
Okay,
does.
Sorry.
Jennifer can.
Yeah, Beth can share. I don't have the information, or I'd gladly do it.
Okay.
Yeah, you do, Jennifer.
I do?
Okay.
Okay. It wasn't in the packet.
Right,
No,
correct.
it wasn't.
Where do I have it, Kent? And I'll share it.
On your email right now.
Smooth
Okay.
moving.
Fresh off the press.
Yeah.
Sizzling. It's so hot.
Okay, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. Oh, so close. Woohoo!
All right.
All
Very
right.
good. Very good. Thank you.
Okay. This is, I don't know if you guys, I'm going to go back one screen. There you go. As you guys are probably all a part of Dr. COG, Denver Regional Council of Governments, there's also a Northwest COG. And those counties, along with Clear Creek, bought into some dark fiber in the I-70 right away. And we have a portion of that fiber. We pay dues to Northwest COG to participate in this dark fiber, and basically to use it to connect all of our communities and keep you from freezing on your screen. So you can go to the next slide. You can see the, there you go. So if you kind of look down in the bottom right corner, you can see where the blue fiber comes up from Denver. And the beauty of this fiber with Project Thor is that it's resilient and redundant. So like recently when the I-70 shut down because of the Glenwood Springs rock slide, they still had broadband capacity coming around the other way through Steamboat. So this is a super resilient, redundant broadband fiber that Clear Creek County owns. And recently, Department of Local Affairs, Clay Brown, came to me and said,
Whoops.
Did what?
She may have frozen.
You froze.
Because we don't have broadband.
started a grant price. Tell me, can you hear me now?
Beth, you're breaking. Yeah, now we can.
Okay. So basically the county owns this fiber. We have a grant. You can go to the next slide.
So Beth, can you back up? You were saying that Clay Brown came to you, but we lost you after that.
Okay. So Clay came to me and said, your predecessor applied for this grant, this broadband grant with DOLA for 97 grand, and the county matched that money. And he said, I need you to bring me a plan for Georgetown. I want you to do a loop around Georgetown with this broadband fiber and
Boy, we need it.
in or build the middle mile. So can you still hear me?
You're breaking up a bit. Yeah.
Why you need the broadband.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this
I
part of your
know.
plan, Beth? I think this is part of your plan.
I think it is too. Smooth.
No, I put a lot of information in the slides for you. So not to necessarily read it all, but to let you look at it and see what we're proposing. So basically I have until March of 2022 to use this money to put this loop in Georgetown. And we have to stay as the middle mile. We're not allowed to connect to residents or businesses directly. We can only provide the middle mile in this loop around Georgetown. And then internet service providers come in and provide actually a more economically affordable option for broadband in our community. Right now, personally, I'm stuck at the mercy of Comcast, and I'm sure some of you are too, or CenturyLink. And we pay a higher than average pricing for this. Well, so.
You're breaking up a lot, I'm afraid. Lost you completely, in fact.
Point is to bring in more competition. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Am I, okay. So you can just kind of read what the slide says here. You can go to the next slide. If you can hear me. And yeah, so this is what it looks like. It's called micro trenching. So we're not going to do big giant trenches across the roads and things like that. It's a little tiny sliver in the road. You can see it along the drain pan of this road on the left. They, of course, do all of the radar screening to make sure we don't cut any other very important infrastructure. And then the far right picture shows you exactly how deep it goes in the ground and what it looks like. And the fiber will be buried there. So we go to the next slide. Okay, there you go. So we wanted to give you an update on where we're going. Like it says in these slides, I don't have your cost estimate yet, but I do have approximately 200,000 to get this project started and make this loop happen for Georgetown, which DOLA is asking us to do. I just wanted to start this conversation with you, and I want to keep you posted constantly about what we learn from our company, our vendor that will do the actual micro trenching and the design of the loop. You can go to the next slide. And this is kind of a Google Earth vision of how the loop will go. Right now, we have fiber coming into the Gateway Visitor Center, and then it comes up rows to the annex, the county annex building, and then to the courthouse. And what we want to do is expand this blue line down to Town Hall and down Taos, and then down to the Georgetown wastewater plant. And then we would like to do a spur up 15th and possibly 11th because we want to get the backside of Georgetown along Georgetown Lake. So this is kind of our draft initial plan of how to do the loop. One of the requirements is that you connect all public facilities first. So that would mean places like Town Hall. I'm trying to think, Heritage.
You're breaking up again. Sorry.
Library.
How about the courthouse?
Yep.
Fire station.
Yep.
Annex.
Or the fire station.
Mothers.
We want to
No.
get these places connected first to the loop,
Trick
and then
question.
along the
Boy,
Yes,
I'm
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, Beth, we're losing
Yep.
you. Sorry.
and at the annex. So
Sorry, Beth, it's gone.
Yeah, the loop
Was
was
the last
basically
slide.
Point, I think
covering
we ought to do it.
the public
Well-
facilities, which include the school, the town hall, the annex, and, other major buildings within, Georgetown, and then run it down all the way down to the wastewater treatment plant so then it can connect as it, at least get down to that area.
Right.
And then the spurs she was talking about, that to 15th and to 11th. This might be one option, and this is just to introduce the idea. Just there'll be further discussion in future meetings with you all about it. Is whether we should use ARPA funds, because that's something that it could be used for, to run a loop on the backside of Georgetown. So then it would be easier for the internet service providers to connect to the residences and to the businesses, and then do down Clear Creek Drive to 22nd and connect it back to the Argentine trunk. So all you're trying to do is build a trunk, and then what they do at different splice points, which we haven't come to a decision on the number or how the locations of different splice points. That is the place where each individual internet service provider can connect and then connect to their customers. The customers that they would have from the residences or the businesses. So you definitely would want splice points outside, like the hotels. Could see something like that, or at different parts in at various points. And that's part of the discussions that are occurring regarding it. And just ask Beth, as far as this discussion, to make this presentation, to start putting this, there wasn't really any meat to it, to start having a discussion regarding it. Because this really has only been the last several weeks, 2 or 3 meetings to discuss this. Since Beth got assigned with it as far as the grant that the county had received in coordination with DOLA to make this sort of thing happen. So the thing that would be asked of you in the future is, do we add on to it? Do we make it a little more extensive project than what it is, currently? And that the idea of the micro trenching, I really like the idea, because there's a very limited damage to the road surface. It's only about 2-3 inches wide, and the trench is only 18 inches deep. Now there's some of that has, there has to be some additional work as far as each street. There will be work by staff with the vendor, because it can't interfere with other utilities. It can't be on top of where the water is, where the sewer is, where the gas is. It'll have enough horizontal separation, but it needs the other way around. It has enough vertical separation. It needs the horizontal separation, so that you're not, when you have to repair the water main or have to repair the sewer main, when you dig in the street, you don't take out the fiber while you're trying to get to the water main or the sewer main. So some of that, there's some work with that needs to be done. But to connect the different public institutions and different public facilities, I think is a worthwhile project. But to start getting it out to the public that this is actually being considered to improve certain areas of broadband access within it. So that's all.
Great, thank you. Deanne.
It sounds like the county and/or us and the grant and all of that are providing the infrastructure, and then for-profit companies will come in and provide the service. Do we get any kind of a piece of that because of, either to maintain the quality of the infrastructure or to, defer basic investment?
No.
Basically, do we get a piece of it?
Similar to cell towers and stuff like that. I think that's a good question.
I don't know what the actual agreement will involve with that. Beth, you can answer that quicker. Yeah. If you're not frozen or if you're not breaking up.
Can't hear you yet.
So we are, I don't know if you can, can you hear me now?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. So we are checking with Northwest COG on that very question. I think it all depends, on what the investment is by all the parties, as well as Northwest COG, because they have dollars in the investment as well. So I have that very question before them, and I will get it to you as soon as I get their answer back.
Okay. Yes, Deanne?
Question 2. Kent was just telling us about 18 inches deep, 3 inches wide trench. That's not below frost line.
It doesn't matter.
Chancing it getting gouged up.
They have stated that the 18 inches deep works in all different climates. It's enough for this type of infrastructure.
Yeah.
For our water and sewer infrastructure, it has to be 5 feet deep. But for this fiber, that's deep enough.
So, doesn't freeze.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
I think it's really important that we sign on as ASAP on this and get it going. Do whatever Northwest Cog needs us to do. We need to move this forward. The history of the companies that are providing us service in the area has been really poor. And this will actually help move this all forward to the 21st century.
So,
Yes. Thank
yeah,
you.
this is exactly what I had in mind when the ARPA funds started to come in our direction. And they said, you know, our funding could be used for infrastructure, including broadband. Thinking,
Yeah.
yes, let's piggyback on what the county can do, has in mind, and let's make it the best investment we can.
Thank you. We will be back to bring more updates. As we learn more, we're going to come and see you.
Okay.
Thank you, Beth.
Very exciting. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
All right. COVID update. I didn't really have anything. Does anybody else have anything? Okay. Moving on. Actually, I did. I don't know if everybody's heard, but there's going to be a weekly, once a week testing site here in Georgetown. They're going to do 2 days in Idaho Springs. They just haven't determined the location because they've actually, because of the increase in cases, they've had sometimes, 100 or more people want to come for testing on a single day in Idaho Springs. So they need sort of a drive-through option for a testing site in Georgetown, and they just haven't determined that, but they're working on it. And there should be one in place by next Wednesday. They've determined that Wednesday is going to be the Georgetown day. Tuesday and Thursday are the testing days in Idaho Springs. So that's all I had. Deanne, did you have something?
No, I just realized that we were about to go on and knew that same thing and was going to say, wait, we're going to get testing up here.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. So the next item is the 20.
I do have one question, and this
Yes.
is not exactly proper for our purposes here, but who was the person that died? We've had a fourth death from COVID, and everybody knows everybody, and I haven't found out who it is yet.
They don't
wouldn't announce it here. That's
No.
for sure.
It's
HIPAA violation.
Yeah. So, yeah, I did notice that. Okay, our 2022 budget calendar. So we're going to be having work sessions after our regular meetings on October 26th and November 9th. And I just wanted to interject that when will we have the draft budget presented to the board?
It'll be at the first meeting in October.
Okay. So that's the October 12th meeting. Okay, very good. All right. CARES funds. So in last year, when CARES funds came to the county, and all of the towns were offered the opportunity to apply for reimbursement for anything that fell under the reimbursable COVID expenses. Both Georgetown and Silver Plume opted to allow our funds to go towards the business support and the individual support programs, with a thought that that's really where the focus needed to be at that point. And as it turns out, there are funds that are still left over that we can go ahead and submit requests for reimbursement of COVID expenses that we incurred last year. So just wanted to let you know that Kent and Mary are working through the COVID type expenses. Those can also include things like the costs that were incurred for COVID sick leave, which was required to be granted. There were a couple of other things that I didn't originally think of that are eligible expenses. So they're going to be submitting those to Alyssa in the near future, and we will be getting some CARES money from that. Just wanted to let you all know. Strauss Park tree.
Well, that was quite a process, but we ended up with the tree in the park. So, and we had some difficulties along the way.
Yeah.
And we originally we thought we could get a tree from somewhere, from Neil's Lunsford or from some other place. We weren't able to do it, that they were out of the trees at our appropriate size. Our next attempt was trying to transplant a tree. That attempt, because we had identified a tree that was down near the lake that could be transplanted to downtown. We ended up with a subcontractor. There was a couple contractors that said no. We ended up with a third contractor, and he had a subcontractor that attempted to do it, and the sub large trees like that, and ran into a situation with the tree that he couldn't get the entire clamshell underneath the tree. Ran into boulders and rocks. You know, there's only one or two of them here in Georgetown, but we happen to hit two of them. Actually, our whole town is just boulders and rocks with a little dust thrown in. And we both the Jared O'Brien from O'Brien's Tree and also Grant from Pineco made recommendations at that time. And Grant from Pineco said this could happen over and over and over again if we attempted on other trees to transplant. And he did charge us $500 for that day, which was a failure to transplant that tree. So, and there was, you know, it would have been nice to have a tree that had already been here. It just didn't work out. Had a suggestion from him that he had a place near Elizabeth where he could be guaranteed to have a tree and be able to plant it here. And that's what happened. After some discussion and checking with all of you as well as part of that,
right.
And could have canceled it at any time. But ended up getting the tree. It was brought up here and it was planted on a little last week, and it was successful, to at least so far. That doesn't mean it isn't. There can't be problems with it, but it's an 18-foot high blue spruce. It is a full blue spruce. And I've had mostly good comments regarding the tree. So they do guarantee the tree as well. So if the tree dies within 1 year, they will replace it. So that's where we ended up with. It was a little bit of a journey to get to a tree to be able to plant it, and some obstacles in the way, but we ended up completing getting the tree into place. And we've had good comments from the businesses that are adjacent to where the tree is at. So they like it, and have had some comments from residents in town, but that's what it is.
Okay.
So.
All right. Thank you so much. I thought it looked wonderful and it's getting good care. So hopefully it's off to a great start.
Excuse me real quick. To go back, Mary Sims wanted to speak. I don't know if she still
Sure.
does.
Sure.
sorry, can we go back an item,
To the
which is the budget calendar?
Sure.
And with the information we received today, I just, the November 9th for a budget session, I am out of town the 6th through the 13th. And I don't know if you want to, I don't know how my internet connection is going to be. So I don't know if you want to schedule maybe something at the end of the previous week. Or if you want to just discuss things without Kent or myself there.
Okay.
We can bring that up as an item on the next agenda as far as an actual date.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be decided right now.
Okay,
Sure.
I just wanted to make people aware of that. So
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Yep. All right. Okay. And that brings us to our added item of town administrator agreement. And I'm going to let Kent introduce that.
Thank you, police judge and members of the board. I'll just take this time to inform you that I've been offered a position with another community. So I'm not at liberty to say which community just yet until they make the announcement, but that I'm submitting my resignation to the Board of Selectmen, and you'll receive a hard copy. I've given a hard copy already to Lynette, but and I've talked with most of the rest of you up until now, but the resignation will be effective October 15th, so that's still over 30 days away. And that's the Friday of that week of October. So I've enjoyed working with the Board of Selectmen and the different members that have been here over the last 3.5 years. I've also enjoyed working with the staff and especially the residents. They are an active and they love their town, and you take great pride in your town. And I think we've done some pretty neat things over the last 3.5 years, some pretty big projects, from the dam, or not the dam, but the dredging project at the lake, to all the various things involved with Bighorn, to the utility improvements at the water and wastewater treatment plants, and all kinds of various other things in between. And this is a great community, but have an opportunity elsewhere. So that's the hard thing about this position. There's only one of us per town, so that's kind of the situation you end up in. But that's what it is at this point. So
Okay. Thank you, Kent. Very much appreciate all that you've helped us accomplish over your tenure here, and look forward to continuing the projects that you've started with. First, we need to talk about, as a board, we need to talk about our next step. Jerry has been informed and has advised us to go similar route to what we did the last time we were changing town administrators, and that is to seek interim. And Clay Brown at DOLA can help us. They keep a list of people who are doing that sort of thing, and that's going to be the best fit for putting us in a position to keep projects moving and give us some time to seek for the permanent town administrator to take Kent's place. So what we need from, I don't know, Jerry, did you want to add anything?
I think that's that's pretty close. As the board recalls, Alicia Reese was a really good tool for us and really was great in the moment when
Mhm.
after Tom Hale needed to leave and of course later died, but she was able to understand the job of the interim and to really keep things going and have things in a position that when it was handed over to the permanent administrator, I think Kent probably will agree that it was handed over in good order. And
Mhm.
I've worked with DOLA on and off over decades, and they do, keep a list of people that will do that kind of interim work. It's usually someone that's been a town administrator, manager, somewhere, city manager, that will be able to do the work for a few months while you get a search process going, and that's really recommended. It would seem to me from a timing standpoint, you will want to have that person on as soon as possible. And my suggestion would be that board direct that we reach out to DOLA and start with Clay Brown to get names of potential people that would be available and kind of vet that so that they're really available, and then bring those back to the board for, frankly, a pretty quick decision, either at your next meeting or sooner if we're able to generate a list that can be looked at so that that person can have more time before they have to start in mid-October. So that's my recommendation. You can do that, I think, by, you can do that by consensus of the board to direct that happen if there's consensus.
Okay. Does that sound like the plan?
Yep, I'm in favor of that.
Okay.
I'm in favor.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sounds
we'll-
good.
We'll take that direction. Kent's your administrator, so he'll have the job of working on that, but then we'll bring candidates that have been vetted in the sense that they're available, that they would understand this work and be able to do it, and from a time standpoint they can.
Mhm.
And I'm guessing that the term, I think Alicia was with us for, I don't think it was 6 months, I think it was a little less. She was terrific, everyone loved her. I'm sorry we couldn't have hired her.
It was 5 or 6.
But it will be, it's a good tool to use, and I think it will be
It
fine.
is. Okay. All
Great.
right. Thank you so much. Anything else anyone would like to bring up? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion to
I'll
adjourn.
make that motion.
Second.
Aye.
All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, we are adjourned at 7:38. Thank
Thanks,
you so
Lynette.
much.
Bye, everybody.
You
Thanks,
bet.
folks.
Thanks,
See you
Kent.
guys.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.